All right, welcome. This episode of Coaching and Cannoli, our show that goes deep on cross-disciplinary perspectives around coaching, around professional development, around getting to the next level of performance, whether it's in the boardroom, on the hardwood, or out on the field. And today I'm blessed with two gentlemen who are not only very professional in both fundraising, in advancement for Archbishop Stepinac High School, Pat Massaroni, but also in the corporate realm as a banker, executive director at Signature Bank, John DeMarco, and they also happen to be state champion coaches of the basketball team and defensive coordinator of the football team. So there's a lot going on here by these two girl dads, fellow girl dads, and not only do I have great respect for them, not only have I enjoyed a round of golf or two or more, but I have a great amount of respect for what these gentlemen do on the field, in the office, in the larger global office, and certainly at home. So today we're going to get into it with my friends, Pat Massaroni and John DeMarco, affectionately known as JD. Yes. So as we get started, guys, Coaching and Cannoli obviously is a little bit of a nod to the Italian. I don't want you to feel out of place here today, Pat.
I'm 50-50.
I know you got a nod.
50-50.
You're a vowel. So
I'm 50-50 though.
But, I did ask to be here. I thought it would be really cool if we were in the gymnasium, the home of so many wonderful wins, so many triumphs. And I guess to start off, it'd be great to hear a little bit about what this place means to you, both alumni, but in particular, Coach Pat, for you as an alum of Stepinac.
Yeah, I would say go back to being a student, right? And then even before that, going to OLS next door, being in the White Plains area, coming to games here and seeing the rich history that was taking place when I was, 10, 11, 12 years old, and then making a decision to come here and go from, OLS, which I think is like 888 Mamaroneck Avenue to 950 Mamaroneck Avenue, 20 steps over. I think it means so much to me personally on what Stepinac did for me on my foundation. Making the decision to come here was great in many factors. Guys that I'm still friends with today. One of my groomsmen, from Stepinac, and the people I met here and the diversity, guys from not only Westchester but the city and the Bronx, and obviously the school's expanded now from when I was a student, but just laid the groundwork for what I believe in today, and I think taught me so much of what has allowed for my personal success to this point in life.
It's improved considerably, and I see a lot of banners hanging that weren't always here. I see a lot of jerseys that have been accumulated more recently, as both of you had a hand in it. JD, I mean, you're also an alum, and you've also spent a considerable amount of your free and unfree time waking and half asleep, really digging into film, digging into opponents, having triumph and also some defeats just outside on the field here. Talk a little bit about what that timeline has looked like for you being a part of the Stepinac family since early on.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Harrison, went to St. Gregory's, similar to an OLS school. And Harrison's sort of a town where, you're paying high taxes, the school systems are great. It's almost unheard of for Harrison people to come to Stepinac back in that day. And my family, my mother was just, adamant about Catholic schools. She loved the Catholic education, and she wanted us to continue that. And, kind of gave us a choice between, a couple of the local Catholic high schools. And I sort of fell in love with Stepinac. It was definitely the most diverse of all the schools that I was looking at. It had a rich tradition of education and a rich tradition of sports back then. And just, when I came here, it was great. And like Pat, I have friends from Stepinac still, and I graduated in, I hate to say 1991, but still one of my friends whose jersey's hanging up on the wall right there. It's his birthday today, so I took a picture of it and sent it to him. Like, guess where I am again? Mm-hmm. It's one of those things you become passionate about when you really believe that a place is doing such a great thing for the community and the students and alumni.
That's great. I know you feel that deeply and believe in that deeply. Speaking of birthdays, today's Earth Day. 2 days ago was 4/20. I presume that you don't necessarily celebrate in that fashion.
I do not.
Your birthday was this week as well.
It was.
Your cuspy Aries.
Yeah. I don't. It's depending where you look in this changing society. Where I am Taurus or Aries, I don't know.
Right,
Depends
yeah.
what what outlet you pick up or what you
I got a
wanna
wife
look,
and
so.
daughter on the 19th. I got siblings-in-law. I have my parents. So whatever you want, you're in good company.
Whatever,
with me.
yeah, whatever shows the better, scope for that day, that's what I roll with.
Well, I know our signs happen to mesh pretty well together. We've gotten along just fine. So I think Sagittarius and whatever you want to be is,
Tween.
that's fine. That's
yeah.
acceptable. I
So.
think you're number 28 on the profile.
Exactly.
So with that point though, Pat, I mean, it's an interesting story that's going on here because I have no business being involved in the Stepinac setup. I mean, that was probably one of the first introductions. Like, dude, what are you doing? How many daughters do you have?
Yeah.
And, I like to think that I'm scouting for future sons-in-law, perhaps, and that's what it is. And keeping the stock, of high quality. Helping you guys out as best I can. But the tradition that you have, the network that you have, is really phenomenal. And I do have a glimpse into many other, alumni groups and networks, but certainly at the high school level and at the level where you travel. People travel with the team to go to Dallas, to go to Texas to play, or see you guys on the road in other states, and to move up the line as you accelerate in the state championship brackets. But the interconnectivity, talk about that, Pat, because you have such a great in advancement roles. You really get to understand how wide and how deep the network grows, and that's something that's just remarkable for me.
Yeah, I mean, I say it all the time. We have alumni, obviously, right here in Westchester, and we have alumni all over the world, and successful. And when you have a product, right, and you have people that believe in the mission of what the school is, where you could excel academically, right? Arts, our theater program is winning Metro Awards year in and year out, and then athletically. So I talk about the AAA, arts, academics, and athletics, that thrive at that level. It's unique, right? You see schools, you see prep schools, you see boarding schools that are national sports powers, right? That are national theater powers, or national academic, and don't have the other buckets. For a place, right, in a suburban community that attracts city kids from Connecticut, people from up in Middletown down into Jersey, right, to attract that whole area,
Huge draw.
is a huge draw because of something we're doing right here. But it doesn't happen without the support of alumni, right? One, parents, and then believers of Catholic education, right? Kind of how we met, and supporting not only with their time, but obviously a huge factor with their finances, and believing in Stepinac is the right investment and the right return on investment for their philanthropic beliefs. And it took time to get there. We were part of the Archdiocese up until 2009. And since going independent, it was kind of like, you either sink or you swim. And from the Board of Trustees to maintaining the right leadership and administration, all the way down to our student body and parents, faculty, staff, support staff, has just proven that Stepinac is at an elite national level.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, not just ranking, like you said, I mean, right in a row, you have the theater across the hallway from the gymnasium, or this way, sorry, across the hallway,
Yeah.
and then obviously you have the fields outside, and all of them are really comprise the robust, extracurricular program here
Yep.
that rounds out the education, like you said, the more traditional Catholic education. What stood out, and I love the arts, academic, and athletics. What stands out for me, though, and I know, JD, you've benefited from the alumni network, but that's not always an easy thing to do because people want things from you as the coach. Sure. People want positioning maybe for their kids. You want to network and grow your brand. I mean, you've got a pretty important job at Signature. You had an important job at City before you moved your team over.
No doubt.
And whenever you're taking people's money and helping them finance projects and grow their business, they want to know about the human that's there. And you're probably one of the most multidimensional individuals I know. And you do them all great.
Yeah.
You do them all really, really well. But talk about how networking has played a part in your success, and give a nod to some of the examples of how that's helped you along the way.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that this place is a family. And that's something we emphasize all the time on the football team and all the athletics. And everybody knows we're a family. And everyone takes care of everybody. So when you have a great love for a school, you come back, you're donating your time, endless hours. And like you, I'm a girl dad, and I'm not going to be a boy dad. And no one's going to get to enjoy this education, although my nephew's coming here next year. But you're not doing it for that. You're doing it because we're a family. We take care of each other. And when I got out of graduate school, I didn't know much about commercial banking. I didn't know how to get leads. I didn't know how to do a lot of that stuff. And one of the first things I did was I started going to my network of Stepinac alumni. I'm like, let me reach out to, this guy's a lawyer, this guy's a CPA, this guy owns his own business. And it's amazing when people like you and you all have same self-minded thoughts. You're going to help each other. And my network, and to this day, being an owner of a restaurant as well, some of our biggest supporters and most consistent supporters are all Stepinac alumni. And same thing with the bank. A lot of my top referral sources, some of my top clients all went to Stepinac. And it's great. We just all take care of each other, and we're blessed to have been a part of this place and still be able to contribute.
For a person that I know has been working their ass off since they're quite young,
Yeah.
And presents as extremely confident, what I heard in there was never too cool for school, never too proud to reach out to others and be like, I need a hand, I need
Yeah.
some help, and I gotta get into this because this is the field I'm going into or I want to go into, and I need some introductions, I need some guidance, some tutelage, and I imagine that comes out with students as well, with players on your teams. If you guys could talk
There's
about
no
that.
doubt. I mean, my phone goes crazy with kids looking for internships, looking for jobs. Even our guys who we have 3 guys in the NFL right now. They come back to us and they know that there's someone that they can trust when they have big discussions with maybe their agent or an attorney that they don't know a lot of stuff about. So it really is. It's endless.
Trust, huge word, right?
Yeah, and I would say the other thing there too is the family looks out for each other, right? So John mentioned the internship side. They mentioned the hiring, right? Guys love hiring Stepinac guys, but in the last couple of years with our Honors Academy and with our program academically has allowed for a mentor program. And we've reached out to alumni, not so much publicly yet because it was in its infant stages. And this program has gone where, if you're part of one of our Honors Academies, right, an alum can mentor you during your senior year. And, who knows what it leads to. And it's not just guys in the area. There's guys down in Maryland that are mentoring guys that want to get into the finance world. There's guys up in Boston that, on the legal side of things, on whether it's being an attorney or not. And all that, is big picture for our current students. And if you get specifically into basketball, I mean, you look at the guys, all the jerseys that are in here, all the teams that have won and didn't win, but still are together. I fortunate enough being the head coach, I was telling JD before we started was the amount of group texts I'm in, right? Guys from 77, guys from 91, the guys, my recent guys, that graduated in 2020. And it just goes off all day, whether it's life to serious stuff, right? What should I do on this or what should I do on that to, I always say the proudest thing for me is winning's fun, but guys call and say, how's your daughter? How's Mr. Carty doing? How's the school doing? How's OD doing, right? Those are people that, it's not so much about the wins and losses in the long run, and I think that's something I tell parents all the time is, we've been successful. We won a lot of games. Kids have gone on to school, going to school and life. Stepinac's 4 years, but it prepares you for 50, 60, 70 after. And that's what matters.
And that's the family that you talk about. Is that there's much more of a vested interest when people talk about impact investing.
Right.
Perhaps that's really what's going on with fundraising and even with just folks getting involved in those mentoring programs.
Yep.
As well as developing the academy.
Yeah, so we have the 4 academies that we
Yeah.
have. After your freshman year, if you have a 90 or above average, you can apply into curriculum, right, that is above and beyond what your normal, education plan would be. So we have law, we have science, we have finance, and I believe the 4th is business.
Mm-hmm.
And you can apply, and then you're in you have special electives that you can take place, and there's guest speakers every month. They go on field trips.
Awesome.
And today, I think what the pandemic has shown us is that, like I said, we have people, WebExing and Zooming in
Sure.
from all over the country to teach
Sure.
a 30-minute segment that don't need to be here, or kids learning, on FaceTime or Zoom,
We'll talk
all
about
the
the
time.
commitment. Like you said, the family never goes away. The commitment to continuing that interactivity and sharing that knowledge, which is really the strength of a network, is knowledge and experience, exposure to unique things or exposure to information or opportunities you didn't have before, but also, knowledge of just basics even at times, because someone is changing career paths and it's down the road. You're still part of that family. Let's get into the coaching side of things. What would you say is a hallmark, or what do you get the most accolade and praise from your players on? What aspect of your coaching style do you feel like most humbled by? Because I know you gentlemen are humble and you don't take it as, you're not looking for accolade, but rather, you acknowledge, like, this is my brand as a coach. What would you say?
I mean, it's something that you dream of as a coach. You never really understand how you get there. For me, but a lot of my former guys tell me they would run through a wall for me. And when you hear something like that, you're doing something right. And I'm not really sure what it is. I mean, I think maybe it's that I'm the type of coach that listens and tries to understand my players. When they make a mistake, it's not screaming and yelling. It's like, let's talk about why you made the mistake. Let's help you better understand what you should have done on that play. Versus like, why didn't you do that? What do you do? And like, I just see coaches coach like that, and you're pressing the wrong buttons. It's just, and it transfers into business too as a manager. It's a lot of the leadership qualities that you want to have is you want the people who work for you or the people that you coach to want to run through a wall for you. And I feel like that has been the greatest comment that I've ever heard said about me, and it's kind of humbling.
It's interesting you went right there. It sounds so simple. What do you mean? All you do is you really get to know why they may have trouble with a move or a play or a technique or a step in the function in their job. Yeah. But taking a real interest in them goes so very far, because maybe you're the only person who's even done that.
Maybe they had a bad day in school. You know what I mean? Maybe they didn't do well on a test. Instead of starting to yell at them for not doing their job right that day in practice or a game, like, you got to try to understand some of that stuff. And listen, you still got to be hard on guys, and you got to push them and press them and make sure you're getting the best out of them and not let them just walk. But you also got to understand, I think, in every aspect of life, where people are coming from, why they're acting a certain way.
I want to come back to a particular coaching anecdote that I know about you, but Coach Pat, what about yourself? What are the guys on the team really appreciate you for?
Yeah, so back to a little bit of what JD said. Obviously, he's got a couple more years on me, and that's
we can
not
see
to,
it.
That's not to throw out features. That's not to throw out any. Age is a number, right? Whether low or high. But
I think I was coaching when you were here.
Yeah, so I wasn't going there, but I would say for you go to the personal side, right? Is when I got the job 7 years ago, and I hired my staff, so myself and Swain and now Al and everybody, it was the foundation's here to be successul. Look at everybody from 1960 to now, right? The success is in this place. But I would say, you get a lot of personal, accolades, and then you also get, I always say all the time, like, when you lose, right, you're the main blame guy, that's the part of being the head coach. But probably to most recent, right, you talk about birthday, was the outpouring of social media support from current, past, guys that got in like 2 minutes in their career here, that are beyond, that could have disliked me and hated me. And I would say that kind of like came out of nowhere, the other day, and putting stuff out there, and that's meaning more on just like, these guys do appreciate you. But to the bigger picture, it's the amount of relationships of guys that we have, that I have with the former players that have gone on, of guys I've coached.
But it's not even just the MVPs or the stars, the ones that make the box score.
Yeah.
It's the others where, and I know the feeling. I was more of certainly not on the basketball court. There was zero PT for me, but I was like the statistician, I think. But I got to ride with the team. Yeah. But it's the guys who maybe didn't even get much PT. Yeah. And who down the road have a whole bunch of lessons and modeling that you did along the way.
Yeah, I think, and to just a quick anecdote on that, there's a graduate, he's now a sophomore in college, playing Division III, Hobart, high-level Division III basketball, high academic. It's easy to ask AJ and RJ to come back and speak, right? Marty played in the NBA. The guys that are playing high-level Division I, but when you get guys at D2, D3, and JUCO, or anywhere in between, And Matt's like willing to come back and talk to our guys and tell them the truth of like how fun you need to be and how much you need to enjoy this time here. Because truthfully, college athletics, Division I, II, III, has become a business, and becoming more and more of a business.
NIL,
And you know, to those guys to just come back and say how fast it goes. But I just think it's the rewarding factor is back 7 years ago. You know, myself, Swain, OD, DeMarco, talking with the administration, the board, the president was like, hey, we're going to put a footprint on doing it a certain way, right? Doing it the right way, but also knowing, to JD's point, you got to have fun because it's high school. You have to be accountable. And the big thing I talk about, people in life, my friends make fun of me of this, is communication. I love talking. I love talking on the phone. I love texting, emailing. In today's world, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, how do you message people, LinkedIn? You know, how do you value those three things? Have fun, become accountable, right? And become communicative, because that's real world, real life lessons. You know, we have seniors that commit to school. Don't text the coach where you're not going. Pick up the phone and call, you know, call and well, no. You know, one told me last week, I can't do that. Yes, you can. Pick up the phone, because it's going to be more in life, you know, that I learned at 17 or 18. Make the phone call. It's hard.
Yeah,
it's hard.
Swallow that.
Yeah.
That's a really difficult one.
Yeah.
That's from. I mean, I'm sure you've experienced it in the office, where just having that critical conversation to a client, to an investor, to someone that trusts you, where you screwed something up,
right.
Or you know, get to them first and pick up that phone, own it early, as opposed to letting them find out because of the PR that goes out on.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. That's a great point. You talk about conversations that you have. I mean, parents, the players themselves, the recruits, the alumni players, your team, other faculty, staff, people in the community. I mean, you're really interacting with a whole lot of folks, and I would imagine along the way you are like, I need a little bit of help. I need a little bit of guidance. Where do you go? Where do you guys go for coaching, for support, for inspiration? You know, is it IRL? Is it virtual? Is it you know, social media? How do you tap into new ways to stimulate yourself, to have fun, like you said, to make it exciting and to make it developmental for yourself? Where do you go?
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely go to my mentors that I've had in my career. From the banker they sat me next to when I first started banking, who mentored me, and I learned everything in the world from her. To, you know, who she worked for, I still speak to them. They're obviously at a different bank now, but and my colleagues at Citibank I still speak to. It's as simple as, also I'm observant. You know, the head coach here now, who Pat mentioned earlier, Mike O'Donnell. He's a head football coach. I played for him. He's still a head football coach here. He's the athletic director here. But I watch him. I watch the way he carries himself and how he just acts with great integrity. And how he doesn't let things upset him. And I think I've learned that lesson a lot from some good friends and mentors who are, you know, slightly older, a little more experienced. I think you just have to constantly learn. One of my best golfing partners is a 79-year-old retired CPA who has more knowledge than I could ever imagine, and bounce things off of him. So I think as much as you want to surround yourself by a great network to help you develop business, you also need to surround yourself by a great network of mentors and people who can help you, because it can't just be one person.
When you know, you go on the internet or you talk to really motivated young people, and they think surround yourself, mentors, you know, get your own board of directors, and they think, let me find the most successful individual or the whatever. What I heard in there is all successful and for great reason, but what I really heard is real humans that you connect with, and regardless of what it might look like or how you might grade their success, they've got knowledge, they've got experience, they've got perspectives that you can draw from. And so you don't shy away from that. That's something that you really are drawn more to.
No, I mean, my wife laughs that, you know, a large number of my friends are all 20 years, 25 years older than me. And it's because, you know, they're great people who've been through a lot, and I can learn a lot from them, and you learn to appreciate things a lot more when you speak to people that have had a lot of experiences. Yeah.
How much of that? Yes, exactly. How much of that mentoring would you say is missing in the professional world, though? And it may be outside your team. Your team's probably a little bit of an anomaly in how you engage that way. But in general, a lot of folks.
I think one of the biggest problems with development of managers and leaders is a lot of them think they know everything already. And they sit on a pedestal where they don't think they need to keep learning. And they need coaching. A lot of people need to open their minds, expand their minds, and understand that you can learn something every day. And if you think you know everything, especially being a leader or a manager or a coach, you're not going to be very successful.
How much of that humility is a hurdle because they've just never seen it? To your point about modeling, they haven't had like one good model,
Right.
and therefore they just don't even know that they could draw from other people, and they must have the answer themselves.
Yeah, there's no doubt lack of exposure. No doubt. I mean, some of the things that have advanced me the most as a coach is getting our butts beat by other teams doing things and making me have to work harder, go back to the drawing board on, why did this happen? What did I miss? And you have to learn from all your errors.
Right. Extracting that lesson learned from
Yep.
the beating that you had to take.
Yeah. Sometimes it's good to get a beating.
It's good to get a little beating. Yeah, you can't say that in a lot of circles anymore, but a physical and a metaphorical beating sometimes gets the point across, right?
Yeah.
Pat, what would you like to see for the world that your very young daughter is growing up in, and that you're going to continue to shape the young men that come through, not just Stepinac, but mostly through your program as well on the team? What would you like to see for the world over the next few years as it relates to their development, their aptitude, their mindset?
Yeah, I think, and I say this to kids all the time, in today's world of social media, in today's world of, so much happening on a device, why not go back to not everything needs to be instant gratification? Everybody wants to play varsity. Everybody wants to shoot 20 shots. Everybody wants to be the quarterback, right? Everybody wants to be the head coach, wants to be the president, wants to be the boss, the vice president, right? How about go back to the ways, and it's a little bit of old school of working your way up, right? So on the basketball side of things, it's okay to play freshman basketball. It's okay to play JV basketball, right? I mean, our lower levels were really successful this year, and then get to our nationally ranked varsity program by working at it. And I think it's not all our kids' fault, right? Frank Martin, who I follow on social media, I've come to know, right, was the head coach at Kansas State, was the head coach at South Carolina. Now he just got named the head coach at University of Massachusetts, UMass, was started as a high school coach. So, I felt a liking to him. Right. He hits it best. He says, the kids haven't changed. The adults have changed, right? So you go back to my young daughter, to these kids that I coach, to the kids in school, is to try to provide them with platforms and the blueprint and the avenues to try to be successful, and the one thing is they're going to make mistakes. We all make mistakes, but I tell our kids all the time, I tell, my staff all the time, I tell people I know is when we stop learning, right, or I stop learning is when it's over, right? It's over on being a leader. You always have to learn, whether it's conferences, social media, reading, podcasts, all that stuff. You have to be able to learn at all times, and that's the key thing. If
you're in that constant distraction mode, like you said, like you started there with the social media, then you're not really learning. You're reacting, and you're never really developing as your own unique self, or even retaining and thinking and digesting what experience you just went through.
Yeah, you have to learn, right? JD hits a lot of the segment's been about his team, right? And I have a team around me. My assistants are older, younger, different demographics, different backgrounds, different parts of New York. If everybody was from Westchester, how could we be successful? If everybody's from New York City, how do we be successful? It's our program is so diverse in so many different avenues, right? So for myself, I keep mentioning to Swain, my associate head coach, down to our freshman assistant, right? Played at South Carolina. He's an older gentleman, but just brings a different aspect to what we're doing. And I think that's key. And that it's the same back on the other side of it. You got guys from the graduating class of 54, 55 that love this place just as much as 18, 19, 20. Why? There's a common factor to it, to it.
Well, and to your point about the social media craze, if that's where you're drawn to and you think you must be a starter on the nationally ranked varsity team,
Right.
or you're a failure, or there's something wrong with the coach, or this place is not for me, instead of savoring the moment, maybe as a freshman, you should realize how much exposure you have to all these other resources that are going to help you be the best you can, so you'll be in a better position when you earn that spot on the starting roster, or even as the 6th or 7th, on the bench.
And I would just say on that, you have to balance, right? Our social media following is insane for
Yeah,
high school,
you
right?
do have a pretty good
It's
deal.
overall, like academically, socially, athletically. Obviously, athletics people love to write about. People love to print. Newspapers sell athletic stories, right? That's a lot of the paper. It's negativity and positive sports stuff, or negative sports stuff. So it's a balance. Like, you need to have social media. We do. We have Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok now. It's a need.
Please don't dance.
Depending if anybody out there wants to support Stepinac, I'll dance on
Depending on
TikTok
the
if you want.
donation.
The right donation, the right auction item.
That's true.
All right, man. All right,
That's
the right
true.
thing.
That is advancement through and
You
through.
got
I
it.
will
So
dance for money.
I will dance on TikTok if we have a substantial.
Better get your checkbooks out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But the point being is you got to balance it, and when to shut it off and when not to is the key. So going back to my daughter my wife and I say all the time, pandemic baby, right? So for the first 15 months of her life, she didn't see some of our family because you just didn't know, right? What was the impact going to be on her? I know you guys' daughter's a little older, but it's like, what is she? We took her to swimming lessons the other day. She was like screaming for the first 5 minutes, and then she loved it. Like, you can interact with other humans, right? There is other humans there. There are other younger kids. So it's just like she went through the first 15, 16 months of her life of maybe not getting that right stimulus, but we have to change that as a parents, and let her to adapt. And then
make
it just
space for her to
and it
embrace
translates up to these guys, lost 2 years of high school basically. They got to be able to learn from it.
JD, I know there's an instance very recently where a now NFL star player, former player of yours, came back and watched a game and participated in some of the activities around practice and the game itself, a playoff game, and he expressed to you how grateful he was for the exposure you gave him to inspirational words before a game, at the halftime, to get him going as a player, to get him in the psyche, to really dig deep and come out stronger in the second half. He said he didn't get that in the NFL, which to me was kind of a surprise. I thought that's what those guys get paid the big bucks for, and you were aspiring to, and instead he would rather have you at times be there. Talk about how that affirms what your style has been.
Yeah, so this guy is just a phenomenal player who played here, and he's in the NFL right now. He had a Thursday night game, so he came home the following day and came to our playoff game. And he was apparently very excited about hearing me give the pregame speech. I guess he assumed I was going to give the pregame speech because I give a fair amount of them. But because we're on a little bit of a winning streak there, we sometimes will stay with the same coach.
Oh yeah, you can't change your underwear.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to keep it
right.
clean.
Not at all.
So I don't give the pregame speech, and he sort of talked to me on the way out of the locker room, and he's like, "Man, coach," he's like, I thought you were going to give the pregame speech. I was going to get all fired up to kick the door open and go out, and he's like, we don't see that in the NFL, and I guess that goes back to what Patrick was talking about earlier, that college is a business, the NFL is a business. You lose some of that once you leave high school. The coaches are coaching for their career in college and the NFL, right? So they're not worried about giving you a pregame speech. A lot of the guys get themselves fired up, at that level. So, but it's interesting, and it kind of grounded me again to make me realize something that I learned at a coaching session when I was at Citibank. And then one of the things is called the shadow we cast. I don't know if you've ever heard of something like this, but a lot of times we forget about the shadow that we cast upon others and how other people view us, and you might not realize that people are constantly watching you and getting something from you or critiquing you. And it's very important as a leader, a coach, leader of a team, whatever it is, that you understand the shadow that you cast and just who's watching, just the impact that you have on everybody.
Not just how large you are,
Right.
meaning a
Right.
shadow that they aspire to grow into,
Yep.
but also perhaps a shadow that puts them in the cold.
Yeah.
And causes maybe a negativity. So you can have an impact in many different ways.
Yep.
And just being aware of that, that's a great one. I think that'll certainly be an outtake for us.
Yeah.
For the show. That's something else though, because I look at, obviously the coaching business for me is a business, but it's also, I say it was a natural departure from a world that for me otherwise got very boring and very inhumane in that it was numbers on a screen,
Yeah.
on the trading floor. And I wanted to get back to this type of stuff where we could dig in deeper and talk more about ways to get better and improve and learn and grow. But there is a portion of the population, as much as it's become more of the conversation socially, there's still a portion of the population that are very much like, and not traditionalists. There's a difference. Tradition is, structure, it's support that's always been there. But there are people who are resistant. Where have you encountered resistance to growth, resistance to acknowledging maybe blind spots or detractions or flaws maybe in character or style? And it could be it doesn't have to be on the court or on the team necessarily, but where have you encountered that and you've had to overcome it, or you felt like you've had to help get them to see the light a bit more?
Personally, or the people we interact with?
Whatever you got.
I would say a little bit on the personal side is you get stuck in your ways, right? I mean, that's just the human nature of things, good or bad. And how do you have the self-strength and growth to change whatever that might be, right? Especially if it's not working, right? And why are you going to continue to go a certain way on that? And then on the other side of it, on the coaching side, is we're dealing with 14 to 18-year-olds, right? And it's a crucial part of their life. And that's what I always go back to, and he hit it on a little bit with OD, with character and how you present yourself. It's more than the X's and O's. It's more than what happens on this court. It's about life, and that's more important to me. It's more important to Stepinac than winning. And some people use that against me, when they watch this and they take that clip, and I don't care. It's how do you shake a hand, right? How do you act in the locker room versus not? How do you go out and able to speak in front of 300 people? How do you handle, dancing properly on TikTok? Because that's what kids are doing now, right?
True.
How do you, what do you post? What do you not post? How do you write something, in class? How do you write an email, right? Is punctuation right? So, I don't know if this is off topic to the question, but it's just more to how do you learn those lessons through most times negative or not positive things. And I don't know if that's what you're looking for there, but that's kind of how I interpret it.
It's all real. I think
Yeah.
it's all germane to the idea that you have ways to show up that you don't even think about, because you may think that it's only about the final seconds and did you make the big shot, but in actuality it's about how you showed up on the sideline when a teammate missed a shot.
Yeah.
And are you the one that gets pissed and throws the towel down, and that shows like poor form as a teammate, that erodes confidence in their mind perhaps.
Yeah. Just with, a quick story on that. I use it all the time. When we first, year one, we played local, right? And the goal of the program was to get it back to show our alumni how successful, right? Me personally and me and Swain, like, we're not the first two to win here. People won here,
No, this is
right?
tradition.
And our 15 sports have been really successful. But I say all the time, and I use it to our guys at the beginning of every year, we played down in Maryland. We were in Baltimore, on the road, true road game. And a couple days after, Father Tom got a voicemail saying, I didn't care about the win, right? We won, great win down there. Was how the team acted during the game on the bench, which led to a substantial check for our program, right, from this guy, really successful guy. And that's all, he cared more as an alum how our guys acted, and he sat behind the bench. And I use that to our guys all the time, like, you just never know who's watching, right? And it goes back to you never know who's looking in what you're doing, and that's whether the head coach or the 15th man, you got to present yourself the right way, is what it is.
I appreciate you sharing that. I may add an anecdote. I didn't know, setting out as a parent or wanting to have kids with my wife, you want to have kids that leave a good mark on the world, that are successful, that find good partners, make you proud with whatever job they go after or whatever life they lead. But what I wasn't prepared for was having, the clown car of kids unload at church, which most of my friends, most people these days don't go do, right? They don't go to temple, they don't go to wherever, and they're not as religious organizationally as they might have been previously. But the clown car unloads, we go in, and the girls, because we go through the rigors of bringing them every week, the girls are kind of quiet, and they observe a little, they play a little, but they're relatively, together. And to your point about that donor, I never knew I would feel so good about a compliment when someone after Mass comes up and says, your kids are really well behaved. Mm-hmm. Or when you get off an airplane, people say, like, we were a little nervous. I gotta be honest with you. You boarded the plane and we thought this was gonna be the nightmare flight, and we barely even noticed your kids were here. Meanwhile, the one over there was like kicking the seat and throwing the Cheerios and what have you. And so things like that, I feel, have, when I wasn't looking for the opportunity to get better as a father, to realize how tall a shadow I may cast, I'm like, holy cow, there really are more eyes that you never even think about. There really are more opportunities to produce and deliver a brand onto the world because people are noticing, people are taking note. So that is pretty profound. JD, what would you have different, or what would you have for your girls as they get older? That may not be the way the world is today, or that is the way the world is, and what do you want to make sure is there for them as they grow?
Yeah, you know what, I think, for me, it's more about what I'm teaching them, right? We just had our parent-teacher meeting for our youngest, who just turned 4. And we sort of got she's kind of bossy and leads the,
She's a confident child.
The other group of kids in playing every day, so, but sometimes she doesn't let other kids play that want to play in the group. So, you're talking about being proud of your kid. At this point, like my ears, smoke's coming out of my ears at this thing, but I'm not saying anything. I'm like, what's going on here? Why is she not including people? Does she not understand? So I think it is that they watch how their father and their mother act and treat people. I think the biggest problem in today's society is people just don't know how to listen to other people. And again, the same thing I'm saying when I'm coaching kids is what might have affected them that day that made them act a certain way that you didn't expect them to act. You have to understand what's going on with somebody. And I want my girls to both understand how their actions might affect how somebody else feels. Because you don't want somebody to not include you into playing or something like that, you know what I mean? So we had that conversation. Hopefully she'll get better, but I don't think the world's gonna change, but I think if my daughters can be more compassionate and listen and observe people more, and be inclusive to them, then it's kind of like a domino effect,
Yeah, so similarly, they're starting off in a very small sphere, right? Yeah. And that world is starting to expand and grow as they can walk to the end of the property line, or they can walk to the neighbor's house while you watching from the door instead of you carrying them right when they're little. And similarly, you're now pulling from people from vast areas geographically and diversity of culture, background, economics to the school. At some point, we grow up, and at some point we either have a whole cachet of experiences that make us feel compassion for others and make us take note of the way others are behaving and not just be looking inward but looking outward on the world. So that's something else, man. I look forward to our girls. I mean, we've got to overlap on a few of them.
Yeah.
So I look forward to them, and we'll get you over the bridge, don't worry. We'll take a road trip. But yeah, I look forward to seeing how this does continue to play out, Funny, one of the more famous guys, definitely off topic, but one of the more famous phrases that I've heard and thought about through this whole virtual period for 2 years was a Mike Tyson quote, which is, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. And over the last 2 years, it was more like everyone's a tough guy or tough gal on social media until they have to face you in person and say what they said or cancel you or dox you when it's a human to a human. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, just, yesterday, somebody obviously got a little too smart, and Mike, they got their dose, which is good. I don't know anybody who would actually vote against them in that case or convict them in this one, but hopefully it gets to go to a jury of real peers if it does at all. But yeah, that's something that the world is lacking for sure, and we do see it. So we come into this next phase of the show called the final stretch. I was hoping that we would have gotten a bell to ring today. You know, you're such a nice host. What a consummate host. He makes sure that there's no bell ringing to interrupt the program. You know, we've got great lighting, good acoustics. We've got a step and repeater to promote the brand and the school, the family. But we do come to the with the race theme, the polio race theme, the final stretch. And what we do there is I just fire through a bunch of questions. So these are quick response ones, and I'm just going to look to you.
We're going back and
one
forth
at a
here.
time.
Is that
Yeah.
it? Okay.
You'll each get a chance to answer, but we're not looking
like Family Feud.
We're not looking for the big one. You can hit the buzzer, whatever it is. Yeah. So don't worry, they're not too crazy, but it is good to hear because the makeup of successful coaches, the makeup of individuals, and then also you guys. Sorry, the makeup of successful coaches like yourself is something that people want to know about, and sometimes the modeling. People don't get a chance to really know some of that. So maybe this is like an opportunity for you to share that with the group. So I'll ask the question and point, and you guys can answer. So first paid job, JD.
My first paid job, newspaper boy.
Yeah. What about you, Pat?
First paid job, I think I was a umpire, Little League umpire.
Nice.
Paid job, yeah. Yeah, when I was still like in high school and stuff.
You ever get in a fight with like Billy Martin of the dugout?
No
Some
comment.
parent kicking dirt on you?
No comment.
I could just imagine you would take nothing from anybody.
That's
At
it. That's it.
13,
Yeah.
you're like, it was a strike. It's going to remain a strike. You're out. Pat, what would you advise your 20-year-old? Well, wait, you're still only 20, aren't you?
Yeah, no, I'm 20.
All right, what would you
No.
advise your 12-year-old self? No, what would you advise your 20-year-old self if you went back a couple of years and had the opportunity?
If I had the opportunity, it would probably be to enjoy like 12 to like 19 and a half more.
That period.
I think life is fast and life is quick, and you got to enjoy it to the fullest. I know that's a little bit of a cliche, and people say sometimes don't use that, but if you go back, I would say that. Be able to enjoy moments more, specifically with family and friends.
in that bracket.
Correct.
Great. JD?
I would definitely say don't sweat the small stuff and put too much pressure on yourself to be successful, because if you do the right things and you follow the right processes, success will come.
Yeah, I could see how you were definitely very focused on making something of yourself. You still have that in you, but you've taken a good perspective on that with age and wisdom.
So far, 2 for 2 on these questions. Like,
Yeah,
do they?
that's right.
This isn't
No,
this
it's
isn't
good.
bad.
Yeah.
All right.
You want to pat yourself on the back?
No, I'm just. I was scared going into this segment.
No,
here.
it's not that hard. Who is or are your rocks? I will show this to Kristen later. So.
Kristen is definitely my saint of a wife,
Yeah.
without a doubt. Unfortunately, I lost my father when I was 21. He was definitely my rock at that point, and my grandmother as well. Not even his mother, it was my mom's mom, but I would say it would be them.
Yeah. Carm?
Yep,
Yeah.
Carmela.
Pat, who is or are your rocks?
Yeah, I would say obviously some people know and don't know is my wife and I have actually, she's been going along for this journey with me, and I've been with her since 07. So we started dating in college, which is kind of not normal in today's world, right?
Sure.
Through long distance relationship. So obviously her, and then my parents, and keep it on the girl trend. I have 3 younger sisters. So my 3 sisters, and then my grandfather, my mom's dad, was always somebody that I was really close with up until he passed. So, there's not one there, but there's a group, and then there's a lot of people in the branches that are people, but
I mean,
that I
what
look
a
up to.
humble guy. The entire show, all you've done is say, let me list out all the people on the team that we work together. Let me talk about the diversity of folks that I pull from. And here you are again with the rocks, like you're just listing off a whole bunch of
I'm
them.
just factual though.
Factual
Factual though.
Great. No, it's natural.
so
It's authentic. I
There's
love
5
it.
women in there, and my dad and grandfather. So I'm just
God
the
bless them
female
all,
side
man.
of it is. I'm
should
getting
be
some
proud.
pressure to start a girls' camp, which might have to happen. I don't know how we do that in
Is
all
this the
boys
soft
school,
pitch?
but
I don't know if that was the soft pitch for me. Like in our first
it wasn't.
five,
It wasn't.
First 5 campers are the Greco girls.
So,
All right, you got 10 grand to invest. Where do you put it?
I don't know if I can answer that legally.
I think it may be illegal by now.
oh man, 10 grand to invest. I would probably take half to towards retirement, my wife and I, and half I'd probably be pretty aggressive in some sort of stock market item.
So put a little away for later and make an actual investment. All
On
right.
an impromptu question, yeah.
Right, I
I'm
like
thinking
it.
about that.
Do we put a disclaimer here? Because I don't believe I'm allowed to give financial advice, but I would make a donation to Archbishop Stepinac.
I hadn't heard any plugs for stuff.
That's what I would do.
I feel like it was Wayne's World to
You
really
go
show
right
my
on,
age.
you go right on stepinac.org and
just
look at
drop
some of the
10
upcoming
G's in
events.
the bucket.
Yeah,
That's it.
there you
That's
go.
great. I love it.
Online, check, cash, stock,
Crypto,
Venmo,
whatever you got.
Venmo,
You could use Signet.
Whatever
Yeah.
you want.
You can
Yeah.
buy a
Yeah,
Signet or few.
sure.
All-time favorite meal?
I'm going to go, I think there's nothing better than sitting at a table and eating Maryland blue crabs.
Nah. Yeah, on the family trip.
Get out some newspaper, a
Love it.
couple hammers,
Smack 'em.
keg
Just-
of beer, and
yeah, smash
sit
'em.
around with a bunch of people, have a bunch of laughs, and it's not a fast process, but
No.
it's a couple hours
Not a,
of
not a neat and clean one either.
No,
but
it's
we
a
got
lot
to do
of
that
laughs,
out back
though.
at the Roadhouse. We'll also
Without a
plug
doubt.
the Rye Roadhouse.
Yeah,
We'll
yes.
plug that for fine Cajun and
Southern cuisine. There you go.
wonderful libations.
Yeah.
We'll do that out back, maybe. What about you?
I would say that I got a co-winner there. There's something about a steak dinner with your buddies, right? And then the other side of it is my mom's 100% Irish and not the best Italian cook at all. So she'll watch this,
That's
and
not
that's
always
fine.
the case. There's a lot of Sheilas that make a nice meatball.
That's fine, but not the best Italian cook, and that's not taking a dig at her. This isn't. Don't edit that. But
She's-
look, she raised 4 kids, working 4 days a week in the city, so we had a lot of spaghetti, boiled, and that was pasta for us. That was that. But nothing about like an Italian meal sitting with your family and enjoying the process of appetizer, salad, a chicken parm, right, to cannolis, right, and that wasn't a planned plug
gonna
there
get some
either.
cannoli-
but
we're gonna get the cannoli in a minute,
But
as soon as
something
you get
about
this
that
answer.
I
after
don't
dinner
see any
drink.
Sambuca, though.
Yeah.
What was your last live concert, show, or non-event that you coached in recently? What was the
Oh, a
last one you
non-event
went
that-
to? Yeah, so not
I
you
didn't
can't-
coach in.
Yeah, that you didn't coach. What was the last live concert or event that you went to as an attendee, as a spectator?
The last I saw Pearl Jam, I don't even remember how long ago.
Yeah, a bit
3
ago.
years ago,
Did you
maybe?
put in for the drawing? We talked about that on the way in.
I did not.
You didn't? Oh, I didn't know if you had like an extra 10 grand laying around. That's what you could invest in.
Yeah,
Pearl Jam
I
tickets.
could get it too.
Exactly. And then Kristen, you have to explain to Kristen why I'm going. Patrick.
It's non-sports.
Yeah,
or
non-sport, something, event that you went to. I find it.
I think it was Zach Brown Band concert. My wife and I pre-pandemic. That was our wedding. One of those songs was our wedding song. So,
Ah, nice.
yeah. So it
When
was.
you rolled into town or nearby.
He was. I think he was down at PNC.
PNC?
Yeah.
Great venue.
Great venue. Right off
Love
the
it.
Garden Star
Ah,
Parkway.
song.
Homedale.
"Loving You Easy" was our wedding song.
There you
So,
go.
That a boy.
But I'm not going to sing that.
No.
That's a 6-figure check there. For
That's a big one. That's a big one. We got to get that financial guy from Maryland. And I heard about you, the attorney in Boston. We need you on the.
So look, we got guys all over. So
Most influential business read or blog or streamer, whatever that relates to business, whatever form, whatever medium. Most influential business.
I read so many.
Yeah. Anything that comes to mind. I
Documents.
usually catch people because they don't have it on the tip.
No.
But
there's some good books out there to read and different 7 lessons, things like that. But podcast side of it, I don't have one right off the tongue.
okay.
Right there.
Yeah,
I got one. Matt,
Okay.
can I grab that? I want to.
Is this something we need to read?
No, this is, I'm leaving, I got you guys both a copy of this one.
Wow,
So
nice.
this is an oldie. When the game was ours, I don't know if you read this, but Larry Bird and Irvin Magic Johnson.
I did not read
Yeah, when the
that.
game was ours. This is during the, Laker-Celtic battle of the 80s.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of really cool anecdotes. I mean, look at these two guys.
It's my
They're
favorite
really
guy
young
right
even
there.
here.
Yeah.
Magic.
Yeah. So one of the stories that I think is so cool about this, and I was tempted actually to send it to you at the time, but I thought better of it. I was like, I'll give it to you when we do the show. The Celtics win, and they go out and party, and the next morning, Magic's trying to get in touch with Larry to congratulate him, and he calls the house, and apparently his wife, Larry's wife, says, "Well, he went out for a run. He said he was he started his training." It was the next morning, and the guy rolled in at like, whatever, 2 or 3 in the morning after winning the NBA Finals in this like all-out rivalry. And that to me has always resonated. It's like, man, that is the epitome. That's the epitome of really like,
No doubt.
whether you're up or down, you got to just
Keep
dust
doing
it
it.
off and,
Yeah.
and start
100%.
again. Yeah,
Yeah.
and on to the next one. Then it becomes a repeat and a three-peat and what have you. So
Exactly.
I know both of you have achieved that level of success. Gentlemen, this has been an honor. I've really enjoyed the time we've spent together. We now come to the most popular part of the show, where you do get a little bit of Italian love. Fresh from Boiano Bakery, local bakery down on Mamaroneck Avenue, we have some cannoli, as we affectionately say on Sundays, ganol. We could work on your pronunciation.
I appreciate
later.
it.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
But these are tasty treats. I think what we need to do in the future is bring like an espresso maker or something like that with us, like
Yeah,
hook
a
up a
little
little, yeah, or at
Branded
least the
bag.
buca maybe.
Yeah.
So we have these delicious, delectable cannoli, which you have to enjoy one with me.
I
So
will.
please get in it. Definitely will. And don't worry, I actually brought a box. I brought a box for you to take home. Now you can
I
either
saw
eat
the
it on
little box
drive.
coming out, so I didn't know
Wait a
who
second,
who
listen
was
to this.
getting what here.
Why am I getting the little box?
This is great.
So yeah, we don't need to bump cannoli or anything like that. It's
cheers
You know,
cannoli.
cheers
part of the
cannoli,
show.
right?
No,
Kind
no, it's
of
just-
raise up.
yeah.
No, this could be really bad. I'm in the middle here. If it goes south.
You're all right.
Oh, yeah.
Growing up, and even now, it's more for the kids, right? The G2 after us, G3 if we're 2. I view and I always associate it's like Pavlovian, when we get a cannoli or any real Italian pastry. I think of growing up in an Italian household, Italian-American household, big bowls and plates of pasta and sauce and stuff that gives you indigestion now because we're old and whatever. A lot of white
Speak for
bread.
yourselves.
It does, yeah, you're fine. Yeah, you've got
Wait
another
till you
2
see what
decades.
tomato sauce does to you in your 40s. It's so upsetting.
That's all right. Just wash it down with more red wine. It'll be fine. And then bring out more cheese and sweets. But this was always the cool part because like I know that we got pushed off the table, sent out into the yard, down in the basement, whatever. But I knew, and as I got older, I would keep an eye on. That meant it was like time for the adults to like really talk and dig in a little more and have some connectivity and find out who's maybe struggling, who's got in trouble with the job, or maybe who's their spouse is in there, they're having an argument. Everybody needs to rally around the couple and get them back on the right track. And those are like the more critical conversations. Those are the opportunities for the family to help each other out a little more. So that is actually the basis for me going so much on this. It's not just me being like a total Italophile and wanting to, be the guinea that has a show. Although that's part of it. Yeah, that may have been where it started at. There is a bit of that comes from there. So I do appreciate, sharing the perspectives today. Both of you letting us into your worlds, plural, more, and I'm truly respectful of the friendship that we've developed as an outsider and as a girl dad. To the Stepinac family,
We'll
but
find you a couple good
That's right.
son-in-laws.
somewhere along the way. And I'm getting close, man. She's almost 11, the oldest one, so it's time to think about that.
Well, thanks for having us on the show.
Yep.
Thanks for having me personally, and to the Stepinac community, which obviously your group and your clientele and your viewers that'll see this, but to the Stepinac community, thank you for your support and all those people that support both the two of us, but the bigger picture of each other, our students, our mission, and anybody out there who else wants to support Catholic education, what we're doing here, let me know. Let us know.
Fine young men out of Westchester County with a reach that is an hour plus for some people, but really does continue to develop and grow. Not just those 4 years here, but way beyond. And that is the family that is so unique here.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Thank you, buddy.
Thanks, guys.